About 6.7 million years ago, and the world was changing. Long before Homo, long before tools, our primordial ancestors faced one of nature's fiercest challenges, the relentless burning sun. In a landscape of open woodlands and grasslands, shade was scarce, water even more so, and every day was a test of endurance. In this episode, we explore how early hominins, like the ancestors of Australopithecus, coping with extreme heat, developed the first forms of shelter. We will trace how selection pressures from climate-forced adaptation, not only in behavior, but also in anatomy, and how these early shelters played a vital role in the survival of our lineage. Around 6.7 million years ago, the world was entering climatic changes. The forests that had covered much of equatorial Africa began to shrink in many regions, giving way to more open woodlands and savannas. Rainfall became more erratic. Temperature fluctuations between day and night grew more extreme. These changes meant that shade, shelter, and protection from the sun's heat became key to survival. Without modern tools, without fabrics, early hominins had to rely on the environment itself. Trees, rock overhangs, caves, fallen logs for refuge. Even before they could build shelters, early hominins had begun evolving traits that helped them endure heat. Standing upright, bipedalism, reduced the amount of body surface directly exposed to noon sun, meaning less overheating. More of their bodies had less dense fur or hair, allowing for better heat loss. Recent research suggests that tightly curled scalp hair, for example, may have helped to protect the top of the head from direct solar radiation, while allowing airflow and reducing excessive loss of moisture through sweating. Penn State. Also, early hominins' behavior would adapt, seeking shade during the hottest hours, resting rather than moving, possibly moving mostly at dawn, dusk, or during cooler parts of the day. Natural structures offered the earliest form of shelter. Overhangs of rock faces, caves, or cracks in limestone provided protection from the sun's rays, as well as relief from heat and sometimes wind. Trees, too, especially large ones, offered shade. Even a dense canopy patch in a woodland could serve as a refuge. Evidence from fossil sites of Australopithecus, for example, Australopithecus africanus, suggests that these hominins frequented gallery forests or forest patches near savanna edges, places where shade and moisture were more reliable. While full huts or constructed homes as humans know them did not yet exist 6.7 million years ago, recent studies indicate that early hominins and their related ancestors built temporary shelters, or sleeping nests. These were simple platforms of branches, leaves, sometimes stones, bent or broken as needed, to create a base off ground or partial cover from sun and heat. These nests served multiple purposes. They offered protection from predators, helped regulate temperature at night, and may have provided a more hygienic sleeping platform, reducing contact with damp ground, insects, or pathogens. Behaviorally, early hominins likely followed a rhythm tuned to heat. Midday, when the sun was highest and heat most intense, was rest time. Dawn and twilight were used for gathering food, moving across territory, or social interactions. Nights could be cooler. Natural shelters helped retain some warmth, or at least buffer the cold once the sun set. Groups, especially mothers with infants, would be especially selective of shelter sites. Proximity to water, shade, and safety from predators would have been prioritized over comfort. Learning these routes, recognizing safe shelters, passing that knowledge to younger generations, these behavioral adaptations would have been under strong evolutionary pressure. Why did shelter matter so much? Without it, prolonged exposure to sun meant heat stress, dehydration, skin damage, possibly heat stroke. Vulnerable members, babies, pregnant females, the elderly, would suffer most. Shelter mitigated risk. It preserved energy, reduced water loss, and improved survival chances. Over generations, groups that made better use of natural shelter and even built simple shelters would have had selective advantages. Their descendants would have greater opportunity to survive and pass on traits, both anatomical, heat tolerance, sweating, skin pigmentation, hair patterns, and behavioral, shade-seeking, nest building, timing of movement. Fast forward many millions of years later, as Homo appears, on 2 to 3 million years ago, we begin to see more complex use of fire, tool-assisted shelters, even modifications of rock shelters with coverings, and possibly transport of materials to build windbreaks or shade. The simple shelters and behaviors established during times like 6.7 million years ago set the foundation. Without those early adaptations, dealing with extreme climates later would be far more difficult. Thus, when we think of shelter, we must see it not just as physical cover, but as one of the earliest steps in human culture, cognition, and cooperation. In summary, 6.7 million years ago, building shelter, even the simplest kind, was not luxury. It was necessity. Our ancestors, with limited tools and basic physical traits, turned to what nature offered: trees, caves, rock overhangs, and sometimes created rudimentary nests just to cope with the sun. These behaviors shaped not only day-to-day survival, but the very path of human evolution, influencing anatomy, social behavior, habitat choice. Join us next time as we look at how early hominins learned to use fire, another technology that transformed survival under harsh conditions. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, stay curious about where we came from.